Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. It has been a long but productive day here at the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2023 Annual Conference with 1,500 or so of my great friends and colleagues in and around higher education today. My guest co-host for all these episodes, the host of EdUp Legal, Deborah Solmore, should have been here for this episode, but she decided to disappear. We don't know where she went, maybe to get coffee or water. Not that I'm calling her out live here on the podcast, but maybe I am. At the same time, you'll never know, Deborah, unless you listen. In the meantime, I want to just say thank you to Heather Perfetti, Dr. Heather Perfetti, my colleague and president of MSCHE, for allowing us to come here and interview the great members and leadership in and across the institutions affiliated with Middle States. And of course, to our sponsor, Lead Squared, who helped us get here and expense and sponsor wise, which we very much appreciate because the connections and the conversations have been really, really powerful. And we have another amazing guest, and I would say powerful guest because she knows her stuff, because I know this because I was already talking to her. But I'm going to introduce her the proper way. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, she is Dr. Kate Conway-Turner. She is the vice chair of the Middle States Commission and the recently retired president of Buffalo State University. And I mean recent as in June 1st of this year. Welcome, Kate. How are you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm happy to be here with you, and great to meet you.
Great to meet you, too. Buffalo State University, amazing university. You said it has about 8,000 students. You recently retired on June 1st. So first, congratulations on your retirement. How do you feel? Are you missing higher ed?
Well, I'm here in Middle State, so it's kind of hard to miss higher education because I'm still very connected to higher ed. But certainly it's an exciting phase of my life to be retired. I've been in higher ed for 43 years. 43 years.
Surprise!
That's amazing.
So I've done lots of different things and, been lots of different roles. And so the last 9 years as presidency was certainly an amazing 9-year run. But, it's time to get on to other things.
Is it? Because maybe you have the bug to jump back into higher education and take another institution on. Could be that case?
I doubt it.
It's fuzzy math.
But I would like to do some writing.
Really?
I really would.
You're going to write a book?
So I'd like to write a memoir.
Wow.
And so I have actually, kind of started a part of it already, even though it's only been a few months since I stepped out of my big role. And then I'd also like to write a bit about meeting some of the challenges of presidents today in higher education. Higher education is really changing. It's very different than it was like when I started in these roles. And so I'd like to write a bit about, what it feels like from my perspective to meet and handle some of the many challenges that we see and we face every day.
So you have empathy towards today's college and university presidents. It's like a pressure cooker these days, right?
It really is. It's just so many different things going on. And in some ways, unlike what we've seen across the decades before. So you have to keep enlarging your toolkit. Yeah. And learning to do different things in different ways. And our students and the requirements for our students and the wishes and wants of them have really changed. And so it really does require higher education to be far more facile than it was in the past. And so it's a different time.
That's a fact.
I said this on a previous episode, but if for those of you listening that know LinkedIn well, on LinkedIn, there's they generate these articles now, and they ask for expert contributors to come in. And so I do a lot of higher education commentary. And one of the questions was managing change in higher ed today and how a leader is really supposed to navigate it. And it really is an almost unwinnable situation, right? Because if you have to change a university, okay, and all of the things that are in a university and faculty, let's just say people are adverse to change. There are many, many, many people in higher ed, and you look at all levels that are adverse to change. We do have a what about me mentality, as most businesses do, but there's structures and bureaucracy built in higher ed. If you can't facilitate that change, you're irrelevant. You become irrelevant in today's marketplace. If you can facilitate that change, you get singled out for disrupting the institution as the leader. How do you do this, Kata? What's your advice over your 9 years on how do these college presidents survive?
Well, I think that it is really hard to really navigate those choppy waters that you're referring to, and you're absolutely right. It's like whatever direction you go, some portion of the population is going to be upset with you.
That is correct.
And I think that one of the things that's important to do is to, really gather around you those people who really are creative and innovative and are willing to really do some different things. Because if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same result.
That's the definition of insanity, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think that leaders have to really find those folks on their campus and in their networks that can help to for them to think through and move forward with some new things on their campuses.
What was your secret for longevity? The average tenure of a college president, I think, was 6 years. I think it came down to just 3.5 or almost 4.
Yeah.
It's really declined. What was the secret, in your opinion, to your longevity?
I think that for me, I really love higher education. I love our students. I love the hubbub and the churn of a college environment. And so it's a very special kind of business. It is a business, but it's very special. And I think the secret for me is that I really sort of enjoy the dynamic roles that are going on. Even, there were times where students could get upset about something and they want to come talk to the president or the vice presidents, and I always saw that as an opportunity that they are learning. They're learning
it's a
how
way
to
to shape them for the future.
Absolutely. To be critical thinkers, that they could really work with the administration or other folks on campus to figure out a solution. So I never thought that was a negative thing, and I think that if people say, get the idea that your perspective is the only perspective and you just want people to believe in your perspective, that is an ingredient for failure, really in almost any business, but certainly in higher education.
Make a good point as a leader. You're talking about broader leadership, but when you're in a teaching and learning environment and you're the leader and you don't do something when it's related to a student that you probably should do because you're avoiding it, and we know, and you've made decisions where you go, okay, I know it's coming to me. By not taking that meeting, by not addressing this, by not putting out the FAQ, by not communicating in advance, you're actually teaching those students about leadership. And we don't talk about that often, but it just, my brain went bing when you said that every opportunity is a learning opportunity, and you're teaching those students about leadership at every move you make, no matter whether it's good or bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you have to really model for your campus courageous leadership. And that is dare to meet and talk with those people who are your greatest critics. Even though you may still go the same direction, you've got to dare to sit down and truly listen to them and understand their perspective. And even if you think the perspective is really wrong-headed and it's not where we need to go, to me, one of the things that's been important is truly listening and hearing people. Maybe they don't always listen to me, but I try to listen to them. And I think that's also been an important piece of my leadership.
What's funny about higher ed folks in general is that, particularly when I've talked to presidents when they retire, I'm thinking they're going to do a lot of this.
Cheers.
But they end up wanting to give back still. Okay, you retired, you've put your 43 years into this. Take a break. And inside of you is going, I want to help other presidents. I want to write a memoir. I want to unload my knowledge onto someone, because you can't stop helping. Do you recognize that? Like, I think that's pretty common for those that serve students. Like, there's no off button for us to still want to help.
Absolutely. I think I do see myself in exactly that description. And I
cheers? No, okay, all right.
Not so much that, but the desire to really continue to contribute and to help and to mentor. I have a number of younger professionals that I mentor. I have many of my former students that I'm connected to. I'm a part of Middle States, which is all about ensuring quality education for our students, and so it is important. And so you do have the bug. You have to figure out what things you can do.
Got to direct it.
Exactly.
You got to direct that bug or figure out how to scratch the edge, right?
Exactly. And not to do so much that you really cannot enjoy your friends and family that have been waiting in the wings, for
So
you to have a
end
little
up in
more
another
time.
job.
Exactly.
Another full-time job working 25 hours a day.
Exactly.
Talk about your role as vice chair of Middle States. What does that look like? What are your responsibilities? Who are you working with in this role? Go ahead.
Well, I get the real pleasure of working with Heather Perfetti, the
Shout out
president
to
of
Heather.
Middlesex. She's amazing. And also
Amazing.
she is, as well as the other commissioners. So we have a board of commissioners that review and make decisions on campuses and the 500 plus campuses in the Middle States family.
Yep.
And so it is important work. Particularly in this time that we just mentioned earlier, that there's lots of change going on. There's a lot of things campuses need to do differently. Certainly, we could point to the pandemic as being an incredible opportunity that we had to do things differently than campuses ever thought they had to do. Whoever thought campuses across the country would have to close down, that we couldn't do graduation, we couldn't convene, and so we had to help campuses and approve ways for them to maintain quality while they were still moving students along to the ultimate, which is their graduation and completion of their degrees. So part of what I do is work with those commissioners at various levels around the 7 standards, so that to ensure that campuses really are learning from each other and doing all that they can do to make sure that they're having a positive and productive and high quality experience, for our students.
You're seeing things as a you're vice chair. You're seeing things that I think 20 years ago you didn't see that often, like closures,
Absolutely.
mergers, and stressed. One of the things I've noticed about accrediting bodies, I've worked for an institution that was WASC accredited, 2 for HLC, and then I've worked for 3 national accreditors, which were previously national accreditors, in for-profits where I worked. And it so much of the focus was on academics, which is what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, when schools became financially stressed, there was also this piece where accrediting bodies have to ensure the sustainability of these. We have to look at your financials, and we have to go, are you planning appropriately for the future? Because schools close, and it was like, I'm an accrediting body. I don't want schools to close I don't want one of my member institutions to close. Is that a continual focus as you're seeing it now?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. The campuses have to have the resources to maintain all the work on their campus. And that means the high quality education for your students, to maintain their buildings and facilities, to maintain the salaries and the benefits for their faculty and their staff and all of that. So in an environment where we're highly competitive in terms of the smaller number of students going to college, then people are seeing declines in enrollment, in addition to the fact that we're in an enrollment cliff and there's less, kids finishing high school less.
Ah! Oh, scary on that one.
You really
that was the
scared me
kid
on
jumping
that
off
one.
the cliff.
Exactly. So resource issues have become a very important part of what campuses need to think about. And so Middle States certainly in our standards are looking to make sure that there's sufficient resources to fulfill the mission of the institution. And if not, then how is the campus planning to make changes that allow them to continue their mission? And that might mean serious changes on campus, or mergers with another campus, or some sort of collaborations. And so all of that is an important part of what Middlesex is doing, is reviewing and discussing with campuses and making sure that they maintain the financial background to fulfill the mission of the institution.
You probably see a lot of stuff. Like, I wonder if there's those moments when an institution comes in front. You would think in this day that there's a lot of attention paid to financial sustainability, academic outcomes, because the value of higher education is in question. And the only way to stop that, right? Because there's this public out here and they say, you don't need to go to college. You could just get you just watch 100 YouTube videos and that's as good as a 4-year degree. I mean, literally there's advertisements on Instagram that say that. And I use this example. I saw one, it's Elon Musk and he's got like a superhero costume on and it says, you could become a billionaire like Elon by watching YouTube videos. And it's unbelievable to me, but there is a kid sitting at home that doesn't understand higher education, that only understands social media noise coming to him or her, that goes, I don't have to go to college. I could just start watching these videos. So I'm not going to go to college. And the only way to fight against that narrative is to ensure quality. It's to open the door for as many students as possible to enter higher education, and it's to have eyes on finance. Do you ever come across this lack of oversight on a campus to where you're just thinking,
outrageous?
How do you not have eyes on that? Like the whole world's telling you have eyes on this. You're not looking at it.
So generally not, I would say.
That's good.
I would say that most campuses are self-aware of issues. But
I think that's changed over time.
And I think that
time.
has. But that doesn't mean that each and every person on campus, but in terms of the folks that actually that administer the campus, the senior folks on campus certainly understand that. But bringing along folks that perhaps have been around for many decades on campus who have not had to think about that. That is really where we are right now. So we have to make sure that everybody understands that in order to be competitive in today's market in a higher education, then one has to be contemporary. And what does that mean for your campus? What is your mission? And how are you fulfilling it in today's world? And so some of the things that perhaps were your bread and butter in the past, students no longer want that. They want credentials. They want different experiences. They want co-ops. They want other things that will ensure them to have a position, a job more quickly when they finish. And so for those that are been educators all their life, always on campus, they may really, be nostalgic for the good old days where people...
You're so nice.
100%.
Nostalgic
for those good old days.
Fighting
Those
the
are gone.
change.
Exactly. Fighting the change. So I don't think that there are campuses that don't understand the importance of fiscal viability and changes, but I do believe that there are, internal conflicts in that campus sometimes between people who don't get it. I want, it's okay for everybody else to change, but I don't want to change.
No,
I want to keep
I don't want to
going.
change. Get out of here.
Change. I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Students are just going to line up for me.
From my class.
Yes, for my class. So they're just going to check in and come in person every day and sit in the same old desk they sat in.
Exactly. But your comment about how students will, look at YouTubes and think that they can be very successful without...
It's scary almost.
It's really scary. And think about all the different occupations that college prepares you for, and that do you really want someone that has a hands-on kind of occupation, learning that craft through never working with people, and so I think there is some naivete around that as well.
It's funny because when we started this podcast, my partner and I, Elvin, we had so many conversations about the value of higher education. And I think I started on this, micro-credential camp. And I do believe in it. I do believe that you can go and get skills and not have to get a college degree. But talking to leaders and seeing all the perspectives behind still what a college degree can do for one, I've moved to the other side that I think it's an and. I think it's get the micro-credentials, stack them any way you want, and get your degree. Because if you're going to ensure wealth, generational opportunity, a degree still means something. And we're not in the days where it doesn't mean anything. I think that there are those that are trying to accelerate it to that point, but there's too much goodness in learning. Now, do we have to change the learning? Do we have to make it more workplace relevant? Are there innovations that have to take place, like subscription models and so on? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that the degree itself is not valuable. And so this podcast has been all about, let's celebrate the hard work in higher education. And you've been what do you think? Do you think after your time, and you're retiring now, so you get to say whatever you want, by the way.
That's true.
For the most part.
Absolutely true.
Like, you're not a president anymore, so you don't have to say, well, I see both sides. You can see whatever heck side you want. What do you think?
No, I think that you're really right. I think that a college degree provides many wraparound skills that you don't get just from, let's say, 5 or 6 stackable
Yep.
certificates. I really do. I mean, as much as those critical things could be very important, it could help to advance your career and also may fill in a certain gap. That there's nothing really that's more fundamental right now than a college degree. Critical thinking, learning to collaborate,
Yes.
working with people from different
The human
backgrounds,
skills.
all those human skills, all those thoughtful skills, not
Yeah.
just human skills, but the ability to think through and reason through. You need sort of time and reflection and classes and mentors and all of that to do that. And I think that if we throw that out, then we will find ourselves having individuals that grow up to be in careers who are not relational, who
Mhm.
don't understand the big picture, who don't understand the history. So there is a problem in the forefront right now. And let's say if you don't understand the history of it, you don't even know how it got there. So how
Yeah,
can you
for sure.
possibly,
And how
try
can
to
you have an
address it?
opinion?
Have an opinion
Yeah.
or address it
Yeah.
when you don't even understand the history. So I think that that's what a liberal arts education background does for you. It provides you a context and an understanding and an ability to think critically and to write effectively and to communicate effectively in ways that just, having the critical information, which is important, doesn't give you.
Epic.
So 2 more questions. One personal.
Yes.
Do you think I've talked to a couple presidents that have recently retired,
Mhm.
and some of them said that the COVID pandemic, their time accelerated their retirement. They just decided it was a good time to exit because there was so much smashed into that period of time.
Mhm.
Was that true for you, or did you exit the way you wanted to?
I exited pretty much when I was anticipating to. I can say that the COVID years were some of the most challenging years that I ever experienced. That sort of year and a half was very, very challenging. Um, but I also felt that it was important to restabilize the campus after that, get people back on their feet, everything back, But I was really sort of looking at this year as the year. It was a critical year for me.
Good for you. Anything you want to say? Anything else you want to say about Middle States?
Mhm. Well, it's an amazing organization, and I am just so proud to be a part of it. And the skill set and the expertise of the people, the staff, and the leadership of Middle States just makes it a wonderful organization to be a part of and a wonderful organization to be reviewing and really, making sure our education is what it should be.
Good for you. Is this your first podcast, or have you done a podcast before?
Have I done a podcast before? I think I've done a couple before.
Okay, well, I wanted this to be your first, but that's okay. Ladies
No,
and gentlemen,
sorry. I'm sorry. It's my first with you.
That's right.
So therefore, it's the
in
best.
person. It's your
the
first in
best.
person at a Middle States conference.
That is true.
See, we'll take that. Ladies and gentlemen, my
Okay.
amazing guest today. Here she is. She's Dr. Kate Conway-Turner. She's the vice chair of the Middle States Commission, and she's a recently retired president from Buffalo State University. Kate, we hope you had a good time on the podcast today.
I certainly did, and thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp'd.